Welcome to the podcast, Kate. How are you?
I'm doing good. I mean, you and I just spent like 3 minutes off camera of me just like word vomiting to you about my hair.
I love it.
So I'm doing good. It's a great Tuesday morning.
Where are you located exactly?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't know. For some reason, you were giving me New York vibes. Maybe that's just the creative aspect of you.
Yeah. And then the all black. I used to live in New York, actually. So totally your vibes were spot on.
Yes. Is that where your creative career took off, was in New York?
Yeah. So I got my like post-grad master's trade school degree. It's like a hybrid. Here in Atlanta, we used to have an institution that was kind of like the Harvard Business School of advertising. And so I studied there. I got my art direction, advertising degree. And then all of my peers were like, I want to go to Ogilvy and Droga and Wyden Kennedy and like all of these big ad agencies. And I was like, I want to work in fashion. And the school was like, yeah, see, we can't help with that because we're an advertising program. And I was like, fashion has advertising too, bitches. I'm going to find me a job. So I got offers from like Gary Vee's agency, Cartier, beauty brands, like editorial type of more magazine, hype beast type of directions. But I really wanted to work somewhere where I got like entrepreneurial experience. And so I found through a friend of mine, okay, this is like lore. So to pay my bills when I was in ad school, I was creating content. I was doing UGC. I was like an influencer, whatever you want to call it. And I went to Fashion Week in New York. It was like one of my biggest dreams. And in line, I meet a girl and we just hit it off. We just start chatting while we're waiting to get seated. Turns out she works in the social media space for a luxury bridal label in New York. And then she ended up getting me a job there as an art director. And so that's where, I started my creative career, and it was my like Devil Wears Prada era. But it taught me so much. I feel like now having a business, I really underestimated that job. And I focused, I think, too much on like, my boss is a tyrant and like, it's just all, I feel like I'm like literally living in the darkness of the Devil Wears Prada. And I felt like my job was not as glamorous as everybody made it seem. And I was working all these crazy hours and doing all these different things. And then when I started my first business, I was like, oh, yeah, it's taught me a lot. And I really should have been a lot more grateful. But when you're 22 or 23, you have a huge ego and you don't really like take into account, I think, a lot of the gratitude until much later.
Absolutely. That's a perfect story of right place, right time. And you never know who you're going to meet, ever.
Totally.
Which actually
I like that philosophy a lot because like, I think it's not even just about if you'll meet somebody that's going to, bring you funding or bring you a job or some sort of financial opportunity. And that's why you should treat people well and you should form relationships with them. But it's like, but also that you just never know who you're going to talk to. You never know what the relationship that you take the time to invest into is going to bring down the line. And I think like there's a reason why we were put on this planet, not just like one at a time where it's like, okay, Taylor goes first for 80 years and then it's my turn and then it's another human being's turn. It's like we were put together as a society and as a collective, and we should take the time to invest in understanding one another and building relationships with one another. Because it could bring some really cool opportunity, but it also could bring you a really good friend. Both are great.
Which is actually exactly why you're on the podcast, because you having a conversation with someone and connecting is a part of your story, which landed you that job. And, so writes the tale. But then you started Off the Record, which for those who don't know, tell us what that is and what inspired you to start that.
Yeah. So Off the Record is a connection card game. Well, that's what we launched with. And it's kind of like our hero product. Our philosophy is that it literally accelerates human connection because it's essentially designed to guide you from small talk into a deeper exploration of a variety of different topics. And It essentially does exactly what like conversation is meant to, which is build relationships, walk away feeling as though I know who this person is beyond just their job and if they like it. I know things about their values. I know things about their family without being invasive, without maybe being intrusive, but like you just understand that people are very multifaceted and they have so many things to them besides just their career or, the celebrities that they like or whatever. And so I've always been really passionate about conversation. I think it's an incredible tool. For me personally, it's what makes me feel connected with somebody, whether it's like romantically or professionally or personally. I just feel like when I have conversations with people, it's like true, substantive, like good conversations without, again, needing to necessarily talk about family trauma. You can get to so much without even having to touch that. You just walk away being like, wow, there was a point to that. And I feel recharged. And I think a lot of the times, especially in today's society, we have created this myth that like having conversations drains your battery and it's like this, it's too much and you have to hold space for people's responses. And it's like, it's literally the building blocks for a relationship. When you talk with somebody, you share things. When you share things with them, that's where the connection happens. And then that's where you feel like you're truly belonging into some sort of community or you feel like you found your people. And I think sometimes because of how often we talk to one another every single day, conversation gets really underestimated and we don't realize that like, there's so much that happens in an exchange with somebody else. Because it just happens it's so mundane to every single person, regardless of your background, your interests, everything. It's something you do all the time. So you don't really take into account that like that thing that I do every single day, multiple times a day, could have so much power in it.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like now in our society with social media and all the things we have all the time thrown at us, conversation is almost villainized because we feel like we're talking all day long or we're on our phones or we're communicating at work on Zoom. And then when it comes time to actually have some real meaningful conversations, we're tapped out or it's too much to bear. Or also we don't know how to converse in a way that is meaningful, but not dumping or, all of those things. But from your perspective, why do you think it's so hard for us to have meaningful communication in kind of the society we're in right now?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It actually, I've noticed even in my own personal experience, but also hearing about other people's, is that there's some sort of switch that happens from when you enter, like you exit out of childhood and enter adulthood. There's some sort of like, suddenly you are now fearful of being perceived for like your responses. Suddenly it's, oh my God, what if I say this? Because that might happen. Kids don't really think that way.
My son sure doesn't. He says what's ever on his mind. I'm like, bro,
I know, maybe they're a little too honest. And I think today they need to back it up a little because I heard a little kid the other day say about a classmate or something that like they were easy to draw. They looked like they were easy to draw. And I was like,
what does that even mean?
I don't know, but it sounded really hurtful. Like I got like secondhand pain from that because I was like, okay, thank God I was in the generation of like your mom and you're ugly.
Yeah. Your mom jokes, classic. Yes. Can we bring that back?
But yeah, there's some sort of like switch that happens. And I think it's because as adults, the more we grow, the more we learn, we acquire, causes and effects for those causes and all. We start to understand consequences of our words and our actions that children kind of have to learn on the spot. How many kids will literally touch a pan despite the fact that their parent is like, that's hot. And the kid's like, I'm going to figure it out for myself. Might be cold. And then they learn that it's hot and it just kind of like moves. So adults worry so much about being judged, about being perceived the wrong way. What if I say this and I'm going to push them away? What if I pry too much? What if they share something with me and I can't properly hold space for that response? So I'm just going to avoid having any substantive conversation because I don't want conflict. I don't want anxiety. I don't want all of these feelings that come if something goes wrong, which like rarely actually happens to the extent that we have created in our mind. Somebody's going to disagree with you. Okay, welcome to the world. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. You're going to have different political opinions. You're going to have different values. Such is life. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can't find common ground with people despite those challenges. And like most of the time, people do. They'll be like, oh, but this person is still cool. And I like all these other things about them and I want to learn. And you'll push through that. But I think it's the anticipation of like something going wrong that forbids a lot of adults from actually having substantive conversations because they think they're going to ruin whatever relationship they currently have.
Especially too with the online, if you're in spaces like Facebook and all that crazy stuff, well, even TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but I know you're pretty big on TikTok, and it's like where people just say whatever, and there's no, because it's online. There's no actual connection happening to disagree and to find common